Peace. What's the deal, everybody? Hope everybody's doing good. Enjoying this day. It's nice out here. Sun's still out, but it's chilly out this joint. I'm at the park. Yeah. Hey, I want to speak on some of the posts that I post earlier in the day. And I put one up about, so-called black people in all of the 13 colonies, having people working for them, people that was under servitude. But just like, you seen the man that spoke on that on the video, he was saying that that the people, these so-called white people, were under indentured servitude. And like he said, indentured servitude, he said, you're still a slave. Like, so, but being in the mind of a person, or understanding the mindset of the people that were living at that time and how business was done, almost everyone was under some form of servitude. Nobody was just not under no type of contract, for anything. Like, if you wanted to, whatever you wanted to be, if you wanted to be a mechanic, if you wanted to be a mason, a carpenter, a cook, you were sharecropping on somebody's land, all this different stuff, you were under some form of contract. You had to be under contract with somebody, especially if you didn't own your own land and stuff, and you had to be under some form of servitude. But people were under servitude for different reasons. Some people were under it for this reason or the other, you know what I mean? But this is how business was done. It's just that we have been fooled into believing that all people that was under some type of servitude got put in that position by being stolen from somewhere, or it was only one group of people who were being put under that. When in all actuality, everybody, anybody that you think were peoples at the time was under that. You know what I mean? From the bottom to the top, even top members of government, in history, Benjamin Franklin, George Washington, these people were under servitude or grew up under that, you know what I mean? And then worked their way out of it in some form of fashion or whatever. And then, back then, if you owed somebody money, they could have you can get locked up, basically. This is why when people would try to this is when you had people chasing down people who reneged on the contract that they made. These are what these so-called slave catchers were in reality. They were chasing down people like bounty hunters for debtors. That's what it really was more so than what was portrayed, in the movies. And just one thing, if you want to accept the truth, you have to accept that there were melanated people who were involved in every facet of the game, just like now in this day. Don't be you sleeping if you thinking that everybody, that's melanated is on some type of is benevolent, and that's not true. The same way everybody that's has a pale skin tone is not necessarily evil. So to be woke is not just to know about this stuff. To be woke is to understand it in its true context. You know what I'm saying? See, a lot of people and then that's another thing about becoming emotionally mature. If you on this journey, you have to grow up emotionally. You can't keep allowing people to say nigger or cracker or whatever, and you become upset about that. You know what I mean? You got to get past that. You know what I mean? You have to get past getting triggered by these code words, these stupid words. You know what I'm saying? If you truly woke, you ain't worrying about nobody talking some nigga stuff. Nobody don't care. Nobody ain't worrying about that stuff no more. You know what I mean? Now, if you trying to uplift people that's still on a certain level of thinking, you have to talk to them about certain things. And people can get emotional, or you might have to be kind of maybe a little emotional in your speech to make them recognize, what's going on. But as for getting triggered by all of that, you shouldn't get. That's another thing that you got to get away from, on your way up. The video I posted about, even the other one about that channel, that YouTube channel, that guy, he has a real good channel, and he talks about a lot of stuff that's very informational. It'd be very good for you to follow his channel and watch his videos, because then you'll start getting a sense of what's going on and what has went on, in our history, in our world history, and also the history of, and here in our country here. In that particular video, I was talking about these artisans that were doing this metal work that's basically this particular art form, working this metal is an unknown thing now. Like people can't do it no more. And but the people who are allegedly supposed to have done this work were supposed to be Africans, right? Because on some of these works that he portrayed, or that he displayed on his video, they had so-called African symbolism. But it's not African symbolism. This is a worldwide thing. We were under a world, the same way the world is being ran under a world order now. The old world was being run under a old world order. So the same symbolism that's here was in Africa, so-called Africa, in Australia, in South America, in Europa, in what is known as Asia now. All of these places had the same symbols and symbology, the same stuff, because the world was under one world order. When you used to be thinking that everything was separate, you still sleep. You know what I'm saying? So like, God make a video, and he's waking up to the truth himself. So he's learning on the job, like a lot of us is. So but still, when let's say for instance you come from a certain group of people, you still like can't believe it's really like. But no, what's really the truth is, everybody was under the same, everything. And so you can be in a church in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You could be a so-called church here, a building that they call a church, or you can go to Cincinnati, or you can go to Tennessee, or Miami, Florida, San Diego, California, Houston, Texas, and you're going to see the same type of architecture. You're going to see a lot of the same type of symbology. Because the whole world was under one world order. It's just that the way history has been rewritten, it's been rewritten to confuse you. So what I'm just saying is, understand that in, the black and white thing is it's not, it's a low level way of looking at the stuff. You know what I'm saying? Because even on the video, guy, I posted the same video on TikTok, and then I basically was like, well, who made this stuff? And the guy said, the French. Okay, yeah, the French people are responsible for it. Okay, but where was France, or what was considered France in let's say, during, what was it, Louisiana Purchase and all that stuff? What was considered France? If you know true history, you'll know that Louisiana is France. Or what's considered France? Same thing, just like Haiti, Canada, parts of Canada. That is France. Same way, when you get into true history and you start understanding what really was going on, even with the British and the British so-called empire. It's an empire. It had spots and outposts on all of the continents. So you thinking you looking at the Revolutionary War stuff from a standpoint that they were sending all these thousands of soldiers from Europe to America to fight these wars. No, these people was already here, because England, what you think England is, or what you think the British Empire is here in America. The same way what you in your mind, what you think Spain is. They just switched it up and put it all over there, like that it's the ruling seats over there. No, the ruling seats was here. So France, Britain, Spain, Germany, just like, okay, the Revolutionary War. Then they teach you about these Hessian soldiers fighting on the side, these Hessian mercenaries being, fighting on the so-called American side against Britain, and they were mercenaries, these Hessian German soldiers. Okay, because that stuff was here. These people was here. You understand what I'm saying? So when you start understanding stuff when you start getting into the mind of the people of back then you start knowing what you're looking at, and then you start knowing how you should be perceiving it, as opposed to perceiving it as the stuff starting from over there, and it didn't. It's all together. But even with the ruling body, like Louisiana is a very important part to that old world story. You know what I'm saying? You're thinking what you're thinking. Okay, that's why it's Louisiana. What was it, Louis XIV and his wife, the Queen. Can't remember her name. Oh well, Anne. yeah, because Louisiana is named after those two that were captured and executed and all the different stuff. These people was Moors. These people wasn't what you think. You know what I mean? These people was Moors people. The original, the original, the rulers. And, so you got to understand, stuff went on post cataclysmic stuff that happened, these earthquakes and mud floods and water floods and all this different stuff. And then stuff was reset. And we've been reset multiple times. The same way we're currently going through a reset. We went through a reset when everybody was advised to stay in their house, and for whatever reason and all of that. That was a reset. But a lot of times, well, in this particular instance, I think it wasn't it worked to a disadvantage, because when people was in the house, people was getting into reading books, watching educational videos, people became spiritual or got stronger religiously, all the different stuff whilst being in the house. So it kind of worked against what they trying to establish. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's just how that worked this time. But we're constantly being under resets, and we've been under many resets, and this is only for the person who is interested in it, or who desires to know the truth. For everybody to desire it, go after it, because it's really out there, right there. They put the truth right in front of your face. I think that's a part of like the little sick game that's played, that that they have to show you the truth in plain sight. It's just a matter of the programming. The programming is done in a way whereas though a lot of people, it could be right in front of your face and you won't see it. So, that's how that worked. And that's why a lot of stuff get past people. Like imagining that these primitive people built these structures. That's a big thing in the road to figuring out that stuff ain't what it seems. And even, that's what I'm saying. These people have been, these places have been populated multiple times. Actually, a lot of these buildings, the original builders of these buildings were, their physical stature was much different than what's going on now. With the people now, the size of the people now, because the atmosphere was different. I remember I watched a big thing on a guy did on he was talking about Detroit. He was in Michigan, but but then he brought up other places, meaning like these great castles and fortresses and all different stuff, with sprinkler systems out in the front and all of that. Especially, he really focused in on some European spots, on some Europe spots. And you got all these super sprinkler systems out in the front, but don't got no water system inside the building for the people to use the bathroom and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was no bathrooms. you know, or the primitive people that came and took over these buildings, they thinking that these fireplaces are fireplaces, but they're really not. These buildings were originally some high tech stuff. It's just that the people didn't know how to use it, so they need heat, so they burning wood in the place. So people getting asphyxiated and getting sick and dying because they don't really know what they're doing. They can't heat these places. Walking around in these megalithic structures with candles and stuff like that, you know, or you see these structures and you got this awesome building and it got a dirt road. Got people walking around in a horse and carriage. So you built this building, but then you didn't have enough sense to make a road. It don't make no sense. You see what I'm saying? See, it don't match. So if you start knowing about these mud floods, you start seeing that these places were dug out. So when they portraying these places and these times in history, you're seeing dirt roads next to awesome, you know what I mean, high-tech structures, because these people didn't build these structures. And most of the people that the land belonged to, that didn't come from nowhere. Okay, yeah, you come from people. This is why they've been going so hard with trying to convince you that you come from somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody who got, let's say for instance, the land belonged to everybody who got a colored grandma. Like if you got a colored grandmother, great grandmother, great grandmother, whatever. Because people getting old, people my age getting older, whatever. But most of us in their 40s and 50s. Have a colored grandmother. Like you have a grandmother that came from down south, and on the birth certificate, yeah, it's gonna say they colored. So the colors is the original. The colored people is the originals, because this is a status a denationalization through the system. You know, even in the censuses, calling people colored, Negro, and all that stuff. That's just a way of denationalizing the people on the censuses and all that different stuff. But if you know if the stuff belonged to you, because you got a colored grandma, you got a colored grandfather, point blank period. Or if, guess what, you know anybody that come from Korea, China, so-called India, what they call India now in these days, wherever, even if people that come over here from Europe in this day and time, if they do something wrong and commit a crime, they gonna get sent back to where they gonna get sent back where they come from. The people that's here that cannot be deported anywhere, even if, you know, people that's say, oh, well, they in this day and time, they say, oh,